You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is July 20th, 2021. My birthday is coming up in less than 24 hours, so send your welcome wishes to me. I appreciate it, as always, and send me your emails. I want to talk about the EV revolution, where it really is, how many of these cars they're going to sell. Is there an EV in your future? Are they taking over the whole auto market? Because it certainly appears to be the case on face value. And you know that I'm a car person. I was figuring out that I've owned or leased over 60 cars since I'm 17 years old. So I guess that makes me a car person. I'm not into exotic. I'm not into these Ferraris that you hit a pothole and you have $50,000 worth of damage. And I don't like flashy Bentleys, not that I can afford one, or a Rolls Royce or a Maybach. That's just not me. I like mid-size luxury cars where you get a lot of speed for the bucks. And I like to drive fast, even at this advanced age. But EVs, like the new Tesla, not even the Plaid, the Model S, that car will do 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds. And that's as fast as any ICE Porsche, except maybe the turbo could probably do it in under 3. Nobody needs to go 0 to 63 seconds, but it sure does feel good. Although in the Teslas, because they don't have transmissions, you could get a little case of whiplash. In any event, we got Pam Oakes on with us. And Pam, you have been working on cars since you were a knee-high to a grasshopper, literally. And you know the car biz. You know it, more importantly, from the standpoint of how these cars are made, how you maintain them, and in terms of practicality, etc. I mean, this has been your life pretty much.
Yes.
I think your company's U.S. Auto Training, right?
Yes.
So you've been doing this a long time, working on ICE engines. Like I put you up there with Scotty Kilmer, everybody knows Scotty Kilmer, love him or leave him. But the point is that this is a bit of a revolution in a lot of respects. What is your take on electric vehicles?
Wow. It's still evolving, and we're going to need the EV, the BEVs. We're going to need this platform for eventually for the autonomous vehicle, the AVs. And reason being is that the autonomous vehicle, the AVs, they're going to be driving us to and from. You know, it's not like we're going to have 2 or 3 cars in our driveway anymore because of it's going to be cost prohibitive for most. But you're going to be pressing that little app on your smartphone years from now to hail that EV to come pick you up, take you to the grocery store, take you to the dentist, wherever. So right now, this is the electrical format that they're using for the EVs. 10 years from now, we could have invented something entirely different, and we'll be using that mode of power instead. But meanwhile, everything is EV-based. So we've had them at the turn of the 20th century, and now they've revived themselves in the 21st century. And going forward, we have a lot of updates to do with the batteries, how far the batteries can go under what conditions, the infrastructure, charging stations, our electrical grid, and then most of all is the technicians who can actually repair and maintain the EVs that we have out there.
All right. So we've got a ways to go. Obviously we're going to need people who can actually fix these things, right?
Yes.
They're going to have to be able to actually repair them, and EVs bring like a whole nother dimension to auto repair. I mean, you're working on 240 volts, really high voltage system on these cars. So, you have to be careful because you could easily electrocute yourself on one of these vehicles, couldn't you?
Well, when I first started out working on HEVs, for an example, back in the early 2000s, I had a fleet of HEVs, Priuses actually, back then, and we had to purchase, of course, special gloves. And with those gloves back then came with a fiberglass shepherd's hook. And basically that was to drag the body of the electrified vehicle if somebody made a mistake. So going forward, you can't get comfortable while you're working on these. You have to stay vigilant. You have to have the training, the know-how. And going forward, the technicians out there, there's a lack of technicians and it's getting worse. By 2024, we're supposed to be around 40 to 45,000 short because the rest of us are all aging out. So there needs to be this training module, and who's going to be there to do this? I mean, we're that deep in the hole right now for techs. So what that means for you and me, that car is going to be over at the auto repair shop or the dealership longer because there's less employees that want to get their hands dirty to repair these cars and trucks for us. So that's a big nut we have to crack right now. We have to do the training.
So two things on that score. One, Tesla's teaming with colleges and technical institutes around the country to train the next generation of EV mechanics. Number two, in theory at least, these EVs aren't going to be as maintenance intensive as ICE engines, ICE-driven cars, because the average ICE engine car has 2,000 moving parts, and I think the Tesla has got 20 moving parts. So a lot less things to go wrong because everything that moves breaks, right?
Eventually. And that includes, even think of inside the cab. It's just not, they haven't really broken it down that much. They may say everything, of course, everything's modular, quote unquote, underneath the hood. But when it comes to things that are wear and tear items, door hinges, handles, heated air conditioned seats, for example, that all comes into play. That is all electronically connected. So there's a lot more involved. And yes, the Tesla has reached out, just like Ford and Mercedes and Fiat Chrysler, now Stellantis, Toyota, Nissan. They're all going for these community college and these university programs for automotive to try to get the interest to come into their programs. The mom and pop shop, you're not going to see the mom and pop shops like we have today that can do everything. Now we're going to be seeing more specializing. Somebody may be specializing in cooling systems, HVAC systems. Another one over here may be doing alignments and tires. It's because with the mom and pop shops, the cost for the equipment is outrageous. For an example, a good alignment and an alignment rack setup, you're probably looking between $35,000 to $45,000.
No wonder it's so expensive. Hey, so one thing, you're not going to need any transmission shops anymore because the EVs do not use transmissions. They use direct drive motors, either one or more. Some of them use one on each wheel. And it's interesting to see how fast it's all going. Right now, if Tesla's lucky, they will sell 1 million cars this year. And maybe all the other EVs combined will sell another 1 million. We'll just say that, because you can't include that Chinese company that sells a $5,000 converted golf cart EV.
No.
$5,000 not a real car. If you get tapped by a semi, the thing will collapse like an aluminum can, getting crushed in your hand. So, but right now they're selling like 80 million light cars and trucks per year. So that means that that EVs will have about a 1.5% market share. Now, if Tesla doubles every year for the next 5 years, they'll be up to 10 million cars, and it's questionable whether they're actually able to do it. They've been doing it, but somewhere around 50 to 60% a year, but doubling. So then next year would be 2 million, 4 million, 8 million, and then somehow 16 million. That doesn't sound like it's possible. And they're the most efficient, low cost producer of these vehicles. Everybody else is losing money on their EVs. Tesla is basically breaking even. But so this electrified future for the world, do we reach a point where people say, I don't want an ICE car anymore, I want an EV? And then we wind up with a tremendous shortage of EVs? Or is it going to be the rideshare concept where you don't really own a car, you just pay for delivery, if you will, taking you from point A to point B to point C to point D and then back to point A again? The model here of how this is all going to work seems to be very uncertain.
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
With multi-million ounce potential at its Yellowknife District project, GoldTerra is a company on the move. You'll find them at goldterracorp.com, and their ticker on the OTC is TRXXF. On the TSX, it's YGT. The management team is headed up by near legend Gerald Hanaton of Detour Gold fame, who's convinced that Yellowknife's potential is far greater than its current 735,000 ounce resource. The mine benefits from great infrastructure. Employees can pick up breakfast at Tim Hortons on the way to work. And there's multiple high-grade discoveries, putting GoldTerra on track to reestablishing Yellowknife as one of the premier gold mining districts in Canada. And that should do wonders for the stock price as well. So head on over to goldterracorp.com and sign up for their notifications now.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Well, you've touched on two things. Our infrastructure. Do we have the charging stations to handle all this? Not yet. Will our electrical grid uphold all of this at this point? Right now, they're estimating approximately 3 EVs per city block that our electrical grid can handle. So you have that aspect of it. The part 2 aspect of it, you have other manufacturers other than Tesla doing this, like you mentioned. And the reason why they're doing this now that we're back into the Paris Accord is that our CAFE standards in a couple of years need to be 54.5 mpg across the manufacturer board. With that being said, each EV that the manufacturer produces lowers their MPG, raises their MPG, lowers the hit that they may or may not take from penalties regarding if they're within that threshold or not. For an example, the F-150 Lightning, it's all EV. So what did that do? It just brought their MPG up, right? You go across the board. And plus other ones that they have, GM, Toyota, you name it. They all have to hit this mark. Because they don't, like it says, penalties will be involved and whatever else that the feds have in mind for those manufacturers who don't make the grade. So you got 2 things going on at this point. Going forward, you're going to see more HEVs, more like 48 volt small engine diesel, clean small engine diesel, things like that. You're going to see evolving. But when we go to the autonomous vehicle, like I said, at this point, our power package is going to be electric, unless somebody comes up with something in the meanwhile.
So there's real challenges ahead here. In other words, and the grid is the least of them. And, like Tesla's profit over the past few years, what little profit they've had has come from selling credits to the more established, traditional OEMs, the legacy manufacturers, if you will. At some point, that's going to go away, and they're going to have to contend on their own. Have you had any experience fixing or working on a Tesla at all, Pam?
A little bit, yes. Definitely more so on the traditional, like you say, legacy lines.
Yeah. So what's your take on it? I mean, they're much more expensive to repair. If you get in an accident, the Tesla is the most expensive vehicle to repair. I've watched, you probably watched Sandy Monroe break down a Mach-E and then break down a Tesla, disassemble them, take them apart. And
yes, we were just talking about that this morning, as a matter of fact. It's funny you should bring that up.
Funny as heck. If you haven't watched it, just search on YouTube, Sandy Monroe, Munro. And, it's like, it's a different planet. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been able to look under the hood and figure out in a car what anything does other than the engine and the windshield wipers, and the washer fluid. I really don't know anything else going on in there. It's all covered up now. But yeah, like fixing a Tesla, fixing these EVs is fabulously expensive after they've been in an accident. It's like double the price of a regular car, which is why insurance is so high on them.
The any EV is going to be expensive.
Yeah.
It's just going to be, based on supply and demand. There's not too much of a demand, so the supply is going to be a lot thinner. They have blockchain that is actually, evening this out more and more with parts per vehicle and known issues with vehicles, because no matter what it is, anything mechanical is going to have its weak link somewhere. But it's expensive, and they're, like you said before, they're module. So cost and repair, EVs, quote unquote, new concept here, moving forward. There's the owner is going to take somewhat of a hit. They need to be prepared before they purchase one of these. What are the projected costs in repairs? Because it's just not, one of the modules. It's right down to the tires that you put on the vehicle.
So true. So true. Well, it's definitely, like we said, challenges ahead for this. But on the other hand, there is a cool factor with EVs, right? There's definitely a cool factor. And, they're really fast and they're quiet, and the technology in them is really kind of amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody likes the semi-autonomous, go on the highway, let go of the steering wheel concept. They really think that's next best thing to sliced bread. But there are a couple of companies out there right now that you can turn your ICE vehicle into
retrofit it. Yeah.
Retrofit it. And it's all based on what we call vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to infrastructure, V to V, V to X.
Right.
And it's based on cameras, lidar, radar, sensors that work together. And under certain conditions, just like the Tesla, you can go into the semi-autonomous mode, just like you can with these other aftermarket companies that you can retrofit your own vehicle. So you have that other aspect. You have the EVs, and then taking that platform to go forward into the autonomous vehicle. And then you have the other side of the coin where you have your V to V, V to X, and how this all marries to go forward.
Interesting. So you're convinced that this thing is for real. We're not heading back. But what about hydrogen fuel cells? Is there any possibility of that? I mean, short of them being able to set up one of those converter things that you pour water into your gas tank and then it splits it into oxygen and hydrogen, to go to a gas station to fill up with hydrogen. I just got Hindenburg crisis on my mind.
They're actually, as of this year, they have plans in the work to start them next year in Europe. And this is how they want to propel their long-haul trucks, is through hydrogen fuel cell. Hydrogen fuel cell is being entertained, but there again, we're going to have going forward, because this is all about going to the autonomous vehicle eventually, which is quite a ways out, guys. It's not going to be next week, next year, or 10 years from now. Because you got to remember, we have cars and trucks on our road, about 280 million of them, that have to assimilate into the AV concept. So they have to think about, okay, how are we going to, quote unquote, fill these cars up?
Mm-hmm.
Now, an EV right now, all they have to do is drive over a pad and they can charge.
Right.
That's what they've been doing in Europe last few years. So to program the vehicle to drive over the pad's pretty easy. So how are they going to program them, like I said, filling up with water, hydrogen? So there's things that they have to work on. Are they going to have manned stations? Right now they've had the concept, and they've been talking about it as well, as since we're going to be doing this ride share, because it's going to be pretty cost prohibitive to have your own car. It's going to be like having one car in the garage now going forward, or having nothing. We won't have a garage at all. But quote unquote, leasing these vehicles, coming to pick you up and everything like that. There's going to be different people in the car. And when they have an issue, they're not going to be able to recognize the issue because they're just there for the ride, and they could care if they hear a tire thumping or whatever. The vehicle now is going to have to recognize this, and they're working on this right now. And when it recognizes an issue, it's literally going to take itself to the dealership. So
my car would do that now, because one of the things I hate doing is going to the car dealer. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of challenges. The road ahead is uncertain, and we don't know if there's going to be some big potholes along the way, to torture the analogy a little further. But it's definitely going to be interesting. Pam, we want to find you on the web, connect with you over the web. Where do you go?
Actually, we have our training venue, which is usautotraining.com. And we do the virtual, we do a lot of in-person, and we do a lot of select training for different clients. And then for the consumer, we have findmeautohelp.com.
All right.
It's a consumer base, and they can go and they can find all about their vehicle and what they need to do with it. And it's to help people keep money in their pocket.
All right. If you got any questions for Pam, just send an email to kl@kerrylutz.com. We'll forward it off to her. And Pam, Scotty Kilmer's got nothing on you. And don't forget, sign up for a free newsletter, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Always a pleasure, Pam. It's great reconnecting with you. It's been a long time, but we're going to be following this story for a while. So we'll get together regularly with you and get your take on what's happening.
Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.